Hello and welcome everyone.
Hello,
Hello,
good
hello.
morning.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. The purpose of having a discussion like this is very simple. The pandemic has impacted the world. It has impacted the country, and above all, it has also impacted students. And not just any and every kind of students, but especially students who have risked almost everything in life and are preparing for some of the toughest competitive exams in the country. Now, whether it's the pandemic or it is the underlying academic issues, what essentially has happened is that the underlying mental issues that students have been facing have multiplied because of the pandemic. The pandemic has also added and has also been like a catalyst. So, the purpose of this interaction is essentially twofold. One is to have Dr. Gita, who is an eminent psychologist, social activist, and also an educator. She studied at the Andhra University. She's also studied at the Osmania University. She also has a postdoctoral fellowship by the Government of India through the Indian Council for Social Sciences and Research, an incredibly prestigious and a rare one. She will be the expert. She will be somebody who has handled this in a very structured and um, uh, in a very effective manner. And it is very important for all of us to understand that mental issues or mental illnesses are like any other illnesses, which means you would require somebody who has an expertise in this to tell you how it's to be done. And on the other hand, it is again an incredible pleasure and an honor of mine to have Prateek. Prateek has been a student who's also been an incredibly dear friend of mine. He qualified the civil services and is now serving the government of India in the Indian Railways traffic service. He brings in the perspective of the student, and not just any student, a student who has possibly faced the worst that the life can offer to any student, to any child. And going beyond his academic and his life achievements, how he is as a person, what he believes is in as a person, is something we could all use as an incredible perspective as a discussion. I would serve as a medium of the issues that children have raised. A lot of you have sent in your questions through a Google form that we had circulated on our respective social media, and through which we have received questions. We will try and answer almost every question through a larger thematic discussion, and keeping the discussion very psychological in nature, very psychiatric in nature, very individual, very personality based in nature. And we will also timestamp this video to specific themes, that if there is something that you specifically want to listen to, you could directly go there. Now, with permission of Dr. Gita and with the
Yes,
permission of
Siddharth.
Pratik,
Yes.
let's begin. Thank you. The first theme that we must discuss is pandemic in an isolated form. Now, as we understand, especially the second wave has seen a loss of life that the first wave did not. The first wave did had an impact economically. It had an impact on society. It has had multiple layers of impact. But the second wave of the pandemic really has brought us up close and personal with death. Now, this death could be the death of a person that we know immediately. It could be death of our colleagues. It could be the death of somebody that we have known very informally or through a distant means. But there is a general atmosphere of grief. Now, how do we process grief? How do we come to terms with this, Dr. Gita?
Okay. So every family in these times has seen death or felt bad that they could not be part of the last rites, because most of the last rites have been compromised to follow the protocols by the health department. So most people are unable to release the first step of grief, that is, which is the acceptance of the living person who was with them a day before is no more a week later. So the acceptance part, which was usually in our Indian system or worldwide, there is a certain period set, the 13-day period or a 10-day period or a 1 week, where all the relatives and friends would gather and they would see people whom they have not met after a long time, maybe perhaps met in some marriages. So even people, long lost friends, relatives who lived far away, they would come down, make effort. But because of the restricted travel arrangements and restrictions, many people are not able to release the kind of memories they have with the deceased person. So when people come together and it is a kind of catharsis where you release. So the release is not happening. So when the release is not happening, people are there is an element of shock whenever you lose a loved one. But the more you start realizing the reality and accepting, the shock is absorbed. But now because of the pandemic and because the release is not happening, the shock is not being absorbed. So there is a prolonged period of shock. So when there is a prolonged period of shock, people are having false perceptions and false delusions. We see people saying that I saw him sitting on the chair, or I saw the person close to me walking in the garden. So because of the shock not being absorbed, false perceptions and false beliefs have set in. So people are creating the stories of them being around, and they are not able to accept that the person has left. So we see this a new behavior, because otherwise what would have happened in the 13-day period, the acceptance, the denial, the bargaining, that he should have stayed or she should have stayed for 20 more years, 2 more years, 1 more year to see my marriage or to see the children's, to see the grandchildren's convocation or something. So people generally bargain with friends and relatives that they should have stayed at least a 10 years more, or 10 months more, or a year more at least, to see some event happening. So this bargaining and negotiating with friends about the lifespan of the deceased, these things are not happening now. So the shock absorption has become a frozen shock absorption, where people are freezing in shock rather than releasing in shock. So the relief is not happening, hence the prolonged grief. So now the solution. So if this is the condition, so this is now what do we do about it? So we do the shock release process. So we make, people will deny our calls, people will not want to talk, but you should keep putting messages to them. They will read at their own leisure. You can send audio messages, you can make small videos of what you thought about the person. You want to make a video call, but the other person is not lifting because they want to be crying, or they don't want any social contact. So you make video clipping of what memories you have of the person. Or suppose it's a friend's father. So what memories you have of the friend's father, the friend doesn't want to talk to you, but he will see the video at his or her own leisure. So you make attempts of wanting to communicate. You tell the person, because otherwise in normal conditions you would have been with the person. Even if you didn't know what to talk, you can hold a hand, or you can make an eye contact, or you just be next to the person, that whenever the person is willing to talk, he has a shoulder to lend. So but now we are not able to lend a shoulder. So what we do, we make our presence felt by sharing our memories about the person whom we have lost. So this tells the person that this person is available, trying to make a attempt to be in touch with us. So whenever they feel there is a small vacuum and they need to connect with somebody, all the recent messages or the recent communication, the recent memory is alive. So the recent memory helps them. Okay, so and so has been contacting, video bhi banaya, he took so much efforts, she took so much efforts to make an audio clipping, or send me pictures of the person we have just lost. So trying to frame my memories, which are very important to me. So whenever there is a vacuum, I can connect with this person, because other people, they seem to be busy and they have not got in touch with me much, but this person seems to be really missing as much as I am missing, because every day there is a message, morning, evening. So you must make the person feel I'm available, because this is how you tell the person that they can fall back on you if they want to talk about it. So sometimes what happens, people get in their ego, मैं ही कांटेक्ट कर रहा हूँ, मैं ही बोल रहा हूँ, आई एम, एंड वहां से कोई रेस्पॉन्स नहीं है, मेरे पास भी बहुत काम है, मैं भी फ्री नहीं हूँ. So then you snap out of it. So that is when they realize, देखा 2 दिन दिखाया and तीसरे दिन से वो अपने काम में लग गए. So this, if you really want to be with somebody, you should tell them constantly that I'm thinking about uncle, I'm missing auntie too, I'm missing so and so, I just remembered, I saw this today, I remembered this thing about your mother, this thing about your father. So most people think that अरे याद दिलाने से उनको और ज्यादा दुख होगा. नहीं, एक्चुअली उनको तो दुख ऑलरेडी है. आपके याद दिलाने से वो थोड़ा सा डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो रहे हैं. दे आर एबल टू थिंक अबाउट यू ऑल्सो. दे आर एबल टू थिंक अबाउट नॉट जस्ट देयर ग्रीफ, दे आर ऑल्सो थिंकिंग दैट ओके, हैव अ शेयर्ड एनवायरमेंट. जैसे शेयर्ड नेटवर्क होता है, here there is shared environment where not just me, so many people are thinking, so you don't feel alone about it. So most people think अरे उसके बारे में बात नहीं करते हैं, बेचारा हिला हुआ है या फिर बहुत ज्यादा डरा हुआ है या लोनली है, अपन उसको ज्यादा उसके बारे में बात नहीं करते. बट उसको तो उसी के बारे में बात करना होता है बिकॉज वो दुख में है. So one should understand, we want to be courteous and we want to avoid the topic, but people who are missing them would want to, they are already thinking about that topic only, they are unable to think about anything else. So it will only help them to feel that I am not alone, so many people share my loss.
Which basically means that we're talking about somebody who is seeing somebody
Yes.
lose a close one. Now, there is also a significantly large section of people who themselves have lost their closed ones. And
Okay.
you've spoken about, how it should be a shared environment.
Yeah.
Now, what is often noticed is children, especially, they go into a shell and they stop communication with almost everybody,
Correct.
and then they deep dive into studies. They
True.
think that the only way to get through this is just to keep myself busy and to keep myself occupied.
Correct.
Now, escapism as a concept, ma'am, and before I bring Dr. Geeta in, I'd like to take Prateek's sort of insight on this. So, Prateek, you're somebody who's also you've also seen your fair share of life that has to offer. Now, how does one react to situations like these? Do you keep yourself busy? Do you process the grief as Dr. Geeta is talking about? How do we go about it? What did you do? What is your take on this?
So, I think grief, it's very individual to everybody how they deal with it. More importantly, if you start feeling or start questioning why did it happen, why did you lose somebody so early, or you start to question when will this grief go away, uh, both of those questions don't have an answer. The first one, because there is no logic to events in life. It is a fact that you conjure up into a problem. The fact is someone died. The problem is in your head that you're thinking it is a problem. The fact remains a very objective thing. The second thing, when the grief will go away, it won't ever. That is the truth of life. It will never go away. The point is, you turn that grief into something that can be a constant companion in a new form of life. If you do not, if your parents pass away because of COVID or because of some other unfortunate incident, or some close person passes away, the only way to deal with it is to remember them in a way which can help you lead a better life going forward, right? They would have wanted you to do something. My parents would have wanted me to get into the services or do something good for somebody or take care of my brother in some ways. If I'm doing that, that is a tribute to the person whom I have lost, and making sure that they live along with me in my life, although not physically. So that is my view on it, that you have to go through grief. It is one of the concepts of Buddhism also in some ways, although I'm not very well read on it, that the way through grief is to go through the grief. You can't avoid it. You have to face it head on.
Right, makes sense. Dr. Geeta, do you sort of think this is the way to
Absolutely,
go about it?
absolutely. And I also want to address on the aspect that I think we should be covering to address this issue. Like the person going through grief. So the person going through grief goes through denial and then anger. Why me? What wrong I have done? Or why do I deserve what I have always been good to others, or my parents always been good to others, my family has been so helpful, so charitable. Why should this happen? So the anger, the denial, and then the negotiation, and finally when the acceptance. So people, we should see that these stages of grief, which are compulsorily, everybody would pass through all the stages. So before you accept, there is a moment of deep sadness and loneliness, emptiness, where you feel like, oh, I thought I had lots of people, hundreds of people in my life. After the loss of my loved one, I realized actually I'm alone. So this aspect, people realize that mere, I don't have 100 people in my life, I don't have 100 relatives, I actually have my sibling or my surviving family. So this realization makes you feel very small or very inconsequential in the big world, and there is a fear as to how I'm going to survive in this big world, because I thought I had 100 people's army, but actually I'm a one man army. So that realization is the step where we must remember all our life goals. You must dig deep and try to adjust with the loss, and look forward as to, as Pratik said, what they would have want to be. So that is the time to be mindful. And most people think their sad part is their sadness or the low or empty feeling is depression, but depression is a clinical condition, and it requires medical intervention to come out of it. But most people are merely upset or sad, because depression by itself means 6 weeks of not seeing anybody, 6 weeks of not taking bath, and not coming out of your room, uh, not having human contact, and then not grooming, not combing your hair, not changing the clothes that you have worn, and not being able to laugh on your favorite joke. So depression is a clinical condition, but most people, when they are sad, they think they're depressed. So you should one should be glad that one is not easily depressed. It takes a lot to be depressed. So it is easy to come out of an upset state of mind than to come out of a depressed state of mind. So most people, when they are worried about their exams and something happened in the family, and when they are worried that their preparation has taken them 6 months behind, so they must remember that they are not depressed. They are very strong people who are going through the normal cycle of life when somebody loses a loved one. And it is very easy to overcome thinking that all people at any point of time we are going to lose somebody we love. So it is because life, we are not immortal. We are all we are all going to go through the phases in life, either today or 20 years later or 25 years later. So no, the essence of life is the unpredictability. So it is not easy, but if one can accept that mortality is actually, nobody is immortal. So one should accept, one should not think that because I've invested so much, because I have so many, because I have so much financial security, I can be immortal. So people feel that if they invest in something, they will be immortal. So if something threatens their immortality, or they feel that it is threatening to life, they feel very insecure. So one
Ma'am,
must remember. Yeah.
right, ma'am. So here's a yes, yes, Pratik, please, please.
So, the very important thing Dr. Geeta spoke about is depression is a very serious condition. And our generation, it has become somewhat fashionable to be depressed. I'm not saying people are not, but we easily self diagnose that we are depressed and then start behaving a certain way. I would like to tell people, having sought self myself at times, that if you feel you are depressed, do go to a clinical psychologist and ask for help. Otherwise, as Dr. Geeta very rightly said, it might just be a day of upset or a period of blues where you're feeling low, but it might not actually be depression or as big as you're making it to be. The bigger the problem might seem, the lesser motivation you might have to actually go ahead and solve it. So, if you treat it as a smaller issue, I'm not saying that depression does not exist, but if it exists, get it validated.
Understood. So here is the thing. Uh, when, for example, Pratik said, "I'm going to turn my grief into a substantive source that will drive me to be a better person, do better things, and be of greater use to the world at large." And you spoke about how we must look at what we have to think it to be. We have to
Yes.
think that this is not something which is the end of it. We have
Yes.
to come out of it. Ma'am, that is the bridge which is the problem.
Mm.
Students understand, kids understand, people understand that I need to get out of it. I need to think in that way. They know what they want to think, a limited bunch of them. The problem is crossing the bridge. How do they get themselves to think on the lines that you are asking us to think, or you are
So
asking, or Prateek is asking us to
yeah, so the social support is the bridge. So we first spoke about how people should offer social support, and in the second segment we spoke how the person should accept if social support is being given. So the bridge is not to isolate yourself and think that some miracle will happen and you will feel better the next day. The uh, uh, the first thing one should do is social support being offered, don't deny it. You are the fortunate ones, you are the few lucky ones who somebody is having time and somebody is investing their time to make you feel better. So if somebody instead of going, like you said, small children, they go into a shell. So actually people think, okay, let the person be. But for how can you let a person be on their own? You have to intervene, you have to make sure that they are comfortable, you have to make sure that they are not threatened inside, and they're not scared or of the loneliness or the darkness inside. So you give a moment of me time, which could be an hour or two, but you check in after every 2 hours. So the thing is social support. We should not feel that we should give time to others. They need to be on their own. So at times it is even if the person is irritable, and the thing is to person who is going through grief should accept social support, and people who are giving support to others must offer. So it is about offer, and it is about acceptance. So one should not shun away. One should take all the social support that it requires, and it requires a lot of social support. So any iota of it is less. Sometimes we feel they're having so many friends and relatives around them, so they don't require me. So it never happens that a grieving person feels that I have enough support, because no amount of support can actually fulfill the vacuum created by the loss. So any amount of social support is not enough. So one should not feel that they are surrounded by a lot of people, so I need not be around them.
think.
So take
Right.
social support. Yeah.
Which sort of then puts us to discuss the larger scheme of things. If there's anything that the pandemic has sort of taught us, is to have larger question marks on things. Existentialism. We would all know so many people who would have, in general discussion, said, "What is the point of chasing a career? What is the
Uh-huh.
point of being ambitious? All of this is just going to go off one day. Nobody thought the pandemic would come. What are you working for? What is all of this accumulation for? Whether it is for power, whether it's for wealth, for any form of individual growth, this becomes particularly serious and manifests in a fundamental form for civil service aspirants also,
Yes.
because they are going to serve the government. Now, when they're going to serve the government, without making a political debate or a comment on it, there have been larger question marks on how this was executed. Now, there are obviously several media channels who have also said that there was a government failure. We were not prepared enough. We didn't see this coming. And there have been issues of black marketing of vaccines, black marketing of oxygen cylinders. Some of the most prestigious um, hotel owners in Delhi were running an oxygen cylinder gang. This was all over the newspapers.
Yes.
Several of these, allegedly, of course, all of these have been all across, which then makes a civil service student question, if I'm supposed to serve the society comprises of the government and the people, and both don't deserve it,
Mhm.
what am I working hard for?
Mm.
So that kind of disillusionment, the larger issue of disillusionment, how does one keep going about it? How does one handle it?
Okay.
Dr. Geeta.
A very pertinent question, and I'm sure many people must be having this question as to why we must work hard. So, one thing is, in order to maintain ourselves, the body needs to breathe. So, all theories of use, disuse, they say that if you don't use something, it might go waste, like especially the muscles. So, suppose if you don't use your brain, or if you don't use something that you know. So, if you don't use education, so what happens to it? You are educated, The pandemic happened now, but what about all the investment that as a nursery kid you wanted to be safely being sitting in lap of your parents, but they put you into an institution. Not that they disliked you and they wanted you to have a institutionalized life, stand here, sit here, have lunch at this time, come back home at this time, go to washroom at this time. Why were we trained? We were trained for unpredictability. All our education was given to us so that when, if most people who play online games would know this, that when the level of the game goes up, nobody knows a new player will go ahead or an old player will go ahead. It is the one who knows the skill of the game would go up. Somebody who started recently might go up into the level of a game because the person knows the rules or has that technique or the knack of it. And somebody who's playing for years must be at a different level. So it is the same about coping with unpredictability. Your education and your investment, your parenting, it was all so that you can survive when the game gets tougher. And now the game is getting tougher. And the person who has better skills to play this game might be a young boy, can do better, might be an old man, may panic. So, this game of unpredictability is surely going to filter out fighters and the yet to learn fighting types. So, in existential crisis, one, why should one fight? Why should one fight is because we've been eating all those protein drinks, we've been taking all those protein shakes. Why? So that we do have practice matches before the real match. If we directly go into the real match without practice matches, we would be unconscious in the first round. So we need to be prepared. So there could be greater unpredictable times in future. This could be just a rehearsal, and we are scared in the rehearsal itself. So let's think that this is a rehearsal, and thank God that we are prepared and we have survived the rehearsal, because now we can do the mains. So if we think that if we do the simulation, and this is a simulation, and maybe the biological warfare can get worse in coming times. So if we are now prepared with our antibodies, all of us have been COVID positive and then negative and recovered. So if we have recovered, that means we can recover from everything. So we need to exist so that we can play the game better. And because if we don't play anything, the use disuse theory will make us unfit for even minor tasks. So you need to be doing something. So better to prepare and go in one direction. Suppose if you don't know in which direction you have to go, so you will be going around in circles. So now that you know that you want to prepare for UPSC, so you go north. You go north and then you see that, okay, this was not the destination I want. You can detour and go south. But if you are not decided, you will be in going round and round. You will be in the center of being nowhere and reaching nowhere. So at least now you would have traveled from one direction to another direction and seen and learned something in the process. So to be in motion is very important to exist. Hence, you have to take up some career to know if that career is what you are made up of, or you need something else. So to go in one direction is better to go in circles.
Pratik, what keeps you going? That's a very simple question because you've seen it all. You've seen empathy and you've seen apathy at the same time. You've seen success and you've seen abandonment at the same time. How what makes you keep going? Because this is essentially about you. There's no better person who would have seen disillusionment yet worked to be in the same system that you want to work for. How do you look at it? How do you keep going at it? What is
So
your rationale for it?
this single question or theme actually has raised multiple fires in my brain, and I'm just figuring out what to answer first. But yes, disillusionment happens when you are with such exams for longer than you thought you wanted to be. For example, I came in with a plan of 2 attempts. I have done three, right? And then I felt that okay, I have reached a place where I can feel happy about it. I've cleared the exam, but you can't plan for such things. So as Dr. Geeta very rightly said, that uncertainty is making you practice for what is to come in the future. In the disillusionment led me to think, why am I now attracted to this job? Why do I want to serve the country in this capacity, etc., etc.? And then, if I was not concrete about why I want to do this, the failures led me to believe it, that yes, I really want to do this. That is why I must keep going. Otherwise, I would have quit and gone back to a cushy corporate job. There were many questions that why don't I leave it? Now politicians run the show. Country is going to the dogs. We can't handle a small pandemic well, and all of that. My answer to this is something I pick up from Stoicism. That is a philosophy I follow. The Greek emperor Aurelius, he spoke about this when he took over as the emperor of Greece. He said that his objective was twofold. One is to premeditate that you will meet stupid people in everyday life, and to firstly be the best version of yourself in front of them that you can be, and to not be to be as far from them as you can be, right? So don't be as stupid as you see the person to be, and be the best version of yourself. Number two was that he wanted to come into the system, and when he leaves, he should leave it in a better state that he came into the system at. So that is his core objective. So that is what I also feel, that you can't change the whole system. You can't think that if I become the collector, or if I become an IS officer or an IPS, I would change the whole thing. What one very good thing Mr. Narahari, who was my mentor, he says is his objective as an IS officer is to reach one new person every day who has not been reached by the administration ever. And if you can do just that, those kind of simple things, you can actually be very content in what you're doing, and the disillusionment will go away for sure. You will be happy with what you're doing.
Right. So there's a common thing between both Dr. Geeta and Prateek said, is that there must be a drive to be better than what you are today, and there must be a drive to make things better than what they seem today. Disillusionment questions that very drive itself.
Correct.
When we speak about competition, and when Dr. Geeta tells us that it's a video game, and there are going to be better players, there are going to be older players, you never know what lies ahead, and
Correct.
you've got to be prepared,
Right.
you've got to fight. It's basic Darwin theory, right? You have to, it is the survival of the fittest. You have to keep going at it, and competition is inevitable in some form or another. Now, even if you're not competing at all, if you're not trying to be the best, you will still have to do something better than somebody else to survive.
True.
It is that needs to be changed, man. It's that needs to be addressed, Dr. Geeta. So how does one be interested in the game in the first place? If this
Okay.
is a game, how does one still remain interested, Dr. Geeta?
Okay. So it is still a game. All the people who've been in the game out of their own interest, they may continue to like the game even when the game gets difficult. But when the game is the dream of their parents or somebody else who thinks that only way to gain family respect is if you have certain title, or when you have been introduced to the game half-heartedly by somebody else, then the game gets very difficult at higher levels when the competition is tough. So if the best way is actually to master the game and then to say that I don't like it, or you cannot like the game before mastering it. So one thing is play the game mindfully. So while you are at the game, you anyway have to play it, so give it your best, so that you know that you have not left any effort to play the game well. So people think that you can have if students think they can do at a competition by giving a moderate amount of whatever they can give, then the effort will never pay off. So competition always demands that everybody play their A game. So that the drive itself is, if you have to play the game, then don't give a half-hearted or a mediocre effort. Give the best effort possible, so that everybody has a good cutoff. So it is not like you don't qualify only. So the competition is, by even if you don't like the game, you've been forced to play the game, or you love playing the game, it is your choice to be in the game. Give it your all. एंड डोंट थिंक दैट इस साल थोड़ा पढ़ के देंगे, आधा सिलेबस कंप्लीट करके, अगले साल 80% कंप्लीट करेंगे, जो मेरा थर्ड अटेम्प्ट होगा जिसमें मैं 100% सिलेबस कंप्लीट कर लूंगा, उसमें मैं अपना ए गेम ऐसा नहीं होता है. You have to, I mean, Mr. Atish is an expert because he has been mentoring so many students and giving such good outcomes. So whenever people are playing the game, give it your all, even if it is the first attempt, because you never know what kind of mindset you have, and you may not want to play the game next year. So don't ever think that you will give your best at your next game.
Which actually then brings to the playground of the game. There's a game, there's a playground of the game. One thing that the pandemic has done is that the playground is your residence. Now,
Hmm.
back in the day when competitive exams, people used to flock to specific hubs all across the country, whether it was a quota for JEE, whether it was Delhi for civil services and other government exams, and so on and so forth. All of that gets restricted. So a lot of times, Dr. Geeta, a
Yeah.
lot of times students would come to Delhi
Yeah.
because they were uncomfortable at home.
Oh,
It's not that they needed classes. It's
true,
not that they needed classes. It's
true,
not that they ever needed uh, any academic help. They were just uncomfortable at home, and the
true.
reasons for those them being uncomfortable were: A, joint family;
Yeah.
B, they did not share a very good equation with their parents; C, they were made to run around to do a lot of these household uh, chores and works that they were too busy with and they wanted to focus, or they did not have a specific individual room. Whatever the reasons might be,
True, true, true.
there was an option for the child that, okay, if you're not comfortable at home, pack your bags, go to Delhi, study in Delhi.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to join a class or not, study in Delhi. You want the
Correct.
environment, you want what is very popularly called in civil services is mahal. That,
Uh-huh.
you've come to Delhi, you've come to Rajendra Nagar, you'll see 10 people doing the same thing as you. For some automatic reason, you will get motivated, which more often than not is counterproductive. Pratik and I have seen numerous stories like those, unfold in our many years of knowing each other. So really, now, so the thing is, that is all gone. It's now home,
Hmm.
and you're not the only one who's undergoing a crisis internally.
True.
Father is, the mother is, both of them may be facing financial distress. Man itself or woman itself is a social animal, which means your movement is restricted, and that also starts playing on the mental acumen of people. uh, People are fighting, people are snapping. The smallest of things that were not an issue are today big fights at home. And now, because people have become restless, everybody wants the lockdown to end and life to go back to usual. So then they start asking children, how are you studying, why are you not studying, why are you roaming around, why are you not sitting with your books, why are you not doing this, when will this exam get over? On top of that, the exam is getting postponed. So that impact is there on the child also. On top of it, the parent is also going to be like, now that your exam is also getting postponed, what are you going to do now? It seems like the exam is not going to happen only. Are you going to sit like this? So the situation at home, Dr. Geeta, which where there was an alternative, is no
Yes.
longer one.
True.
This is what you've got, and this is what you've got to make do with what you've got.
True.
Let's address this, and then from here, once
Yeah.
you've discussed the larger issue, we'd like to also discuss its specific impact on women candidates as well.
Okay.
So let's
Sure.
talk about this, Dr. Gita.
Yes.
What do you think?
So this situation where the playground is the home, or the room where there are a lot of interferences and disturbances around, when one is not able to give complete focus and attention and concentrate. So the best part about this is the advantage or the disadvantage is now neutralized because everybody is at home. So there is nobody in Delhi. So when everybody is having the same disadvantage, it neutralizes. अगर कुछ लोग घर से पढ़ रहे हैं और कुछ लोग दिल्ली में हैं, and then it is like some people get plus and some people get minus. Now the advantage is, because this disadvantage is common to everybody, so everybody is going to have the same problem. So you should be at peace that I'm not the only one at this kind of disadvantage. And if you think that all those people who have comfortable homes where they have soundproof window panes and absolutely meals coming on time, they don't have to cook, and everything is being done, their bed is being done, their washroom is being cleaned by someone from outside, and they can study, they cannot study, because when you have nothing else to do, your brain starts feeling that you have dedicated your life to studying, so you can take a break, you can chill out, you can entertain yourself, because you've not been doing anything else. You tend to think that you are actually over dedicating yourself than actual dedication. Then you tend to relax more, thinking that I am not doing anything else but only focusing on studies, so I deserve a little bit of entertainment. And actually what happens is you do little bit of studying and do lot of entertainment. So even those people who have nothing to do are also having this disadvantage. So it puts everybody on the same playground, which is very crowded. Earlier you wanted to practice in an open playground, but now everybody is in the crowded playground, so you all have equal chance of making it. So those who are having secured homes or don't have to do any household work, they cannot, because fatigue comes in. That is, it is called fatigue of when you have nothing to do. You are easily troubled by boredom. And when you have many activities to do, I'll tell you the advantage of having interference and sound and noise. There is guilt that मैं 2 घंटे बाजार जाके आने में लगा दिया, मेरे 2 घंटे वेस्ट हो गए, मेरा 1 hour कुकिंग में वेस्ट हो गया, मेरा कपड़े धोने में 1 hour वेस्ट हो गया. So you start calculating कि अब I have 17 hours, I have 14 hours because I've wasted this many hours. So you feel guilty that because you could not do actual academic work, when you sit down for 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, you actually are able to give your mind full of attention, because you don't know when you have to get up and go do the next interfering job. Hence, you are more focused on the wakeful hours that you are giving to your education. So that is also good, and it is a good distraction. You will be physically fit by doing some work, and you must temporarily learn to be detached to all kind of accusations that family is putting on you, that you're wasting your time, and when are these exams going to happen. So you must practice detachment. You must not you should not be reactive. You should not instantly react and respond, because ultimately when you prove yourself, all these people are going to be happy. So you must be detached, and you should not respond in a very rude manner, that you settle down at the age of 35, and you are asking me to settle down at the age of 25. What did you do when you were of my age? Everybody knows. So instead of attacking and being rude to someone who is elder, it is always good to practice restraint, and make sure that time and your effort and your outcome will speak. So just be detached to any kind of criticism, because criticism means someone cares for you, but they just don't know how to show that care in a very, very positive way, saying that we are worried that if you don't make it, you may be unhappy that you have invested so much of time. They are unable to say that, so they are getting angry that how much time you will give to this, are you going to do any work or not. So most people, most elders, they do not know how to show their affection in a positive way, so they'll get frustrated, thinking that you may be unhappy if you don't get through for what you have invested so long. So no matter how the response comes, how people are talking to you, you must always believe, because for your own preparation it is good to believe that people care for you, and they are unable to show it in a way that you would like, and believe that they actually want that you should be doing something well, and in a matter of time they will also be happy when you prove that it was worthwhile.
Right. So the idea is, when it comes to handling grief, don't run away from it. When it comes to criticism, selectively run away from it. Don't take it too seriously, and understand why the person is criticizing you. It might come from a good place. Pratik, how do you take care of this? So what?
Very interesting. I would like to try to summarize it into.
You're muted. You're muted.
Am I audible now?
Ah,
Okay. Sir, am I audible?
I can't hear you.
I'm able to hear.
Is it better now?
I'm able to hear.
Okay. Yes, Pratik. Yes. Yes. Perfect.
I just muted and unmuted myself.
Hmm.
Is it
It's
better
fine.
now?
Yes. Sorry.
So I'll try to summarize it into what I could figure out from this discussion. Number one is, if you are at home, always think about your privileges. Right, that's what I used to do. So I'll think about how privileged I am that I can sit in AC and study. There might be a person who doesn't have an AC. If you have a cooler, think about the person with the fan, and if you have a fan, think about the person with no electricity. That itself will help you feel better about yourself and start studying. Number two is the concept of deep work, right? Humans can't work for 12 hours, 16 hours. People who say that they can read for that length, they sit for that length, they read for 6 hours. Effective hours are 6 to 8 hours, right? So if you are doing jhadu pocha, if you're cleaning utensils, going to buy grocery, as Dr. Gita said, the amount of time you have at hand is only those 6 odd hours, right? And that is where you have maximum productivity. You can make sure of that. So people in the house are also happy with you that you have done the work you were allotted for the house, and you have your hours to put in. Where it's a dysfunctional household, I would say that it might be harder to deal with it, but I would go with Dr. Geeta's way of thinking about it, that it's an advantage that everybody might be facing such issues. And more importantly, think about what people like us in CSE preparation, UPSC preparation have read about. People during the freedom struggle, people in other struggles who were in jail and wrote volumes of books, right? People in concentration camps, refugee camps, and they did great work. So if you
Absolutely.
are better than them, if they could achieve that much with that less in their hands, why can't we, right? So deal with it. Your personal issues will be dealt in your own way. I am no expert on how to deal with it, but keep a hopeful view to life. Uh, I would tell a small instance on how to deal with anger, anxiety, frustration. I had a house help last year, thankfully, during the first lockdown, and I had anger issues on small, small things. I realized that if I scold this guy, he might leave tomorrow and I'll have to cook for myself. And I tried to restrain, right? And in that 4 or 5 month period, I reached a point where I stopped getting angry about small things. And it has become a personality change for me. So that was the big thing I got out of this, that an uncertain time might actually give you greatness rather than being fretting about small things. Thirdly, sir, one issue which I think we missed in this was the postponement of exam, and then the family saying कि अरे अभी तो
Hmm.
exam नहीं है, do something else. So it's like a flight that can't land on an airstrip, right? There is नीचे मौसम खराब है, you can't land. So it will keep running on low fuel at the bare minimum speed for the time that the storm passes by, and then you land. So do the same. Remain with your bare minimum preparation. If you can read newspaper, read that. If you can read something else, do that. And then the rest of the time can be helping people, talking to people who have lost someone, doing household work, etc. So that is my take on that.
Absolutely.
Right, which basically is the basic explanation is that is what I think Dr. Gita was also trying to say is everybody's in a mess,
Yes.
everybody's in the same pool. So the gap that you would have otherwise thought
Huh.
that would exist because of A person being at home and B person being in Delhi or anywhere else, that gap has been neutralized. And there are people who are studying, there are people who are doing well, there are people who are clearing the exam. Somebody is going to clear an exam, somebody or the other is going to get through. So there will always be, as the theme is, that competition is inevitable in any form and every form of life.
Interesting.
The problem is, while being at home, everybody is on the same platform, but then there are inherent differences owing to gender, where women candidates are expected to do more work, where women candidates are often taunted for settling down, where women candidates are also then shouted more at, or more frustration is let out to women candidates. Now of course the deep rooted is patriarchal and is historically driven, and societally things have been rather deplorable. We understand that, but specifically, Dr. Gita, how do women candidates handle these issues that they would face in the homes that they are right now?
Okay. So one important thing is the women candidates, whatever they face at homes, they may face at workplace also. People, they always feel, you if you see workplace complaints and workplace grievances, these are the same complaints that they are not pardoned easily, they are shouted at, and they are given more work, or and they are not given many alternatives or supporting hands to do the same work, while the male colleague may be given hands-on support. So we see that a family is a small depiction of the patriarchal society at that we also see at workplace. So these challenges are going to exist even some of these exist at some workplaces also. So it is actually a very difficult situation. I totally understand. But what women by gender, what they have something is the emotional maturity. So most women understand how to deal. They're very good at dealing with individuals at different levels. How to talk to children, how to talk to elders, how to talk to in-laws. Some of the women candidates might be married and preparing, so they need to make sure that the all the sides of the family are happy. So it so happens that the patience space, if you tend to be impatient and you tend to take drastic decisions as to not doing totally any of the work, rather than trying to request other people for help in their work, and total abundance of one's responsibilities actually makes one the center of all criticism, which most women actually they try to please everybody and do their own work so that everybody around them are happy. So in this people pleasing, lot of time may go waste, because you cannot please all. So I would suggest that, because it is a human tendency not to like everybody in spite of our best efforts, or everybody may not appreciate what we do. Prioritize whose work you would definitely do. Prioritize whose instructions or whose commands mean something to you. So you must have a priority list, और कि मैं इनकी बात सुनूंगी, अब ये जरूरी है, these are my primary responsibilities. There are some extended responsibilities which I can deny as of now. So prioritize who are those people, because it is not necessary that we listen to the extended relatives also, or instead of the primary family. So let us prioritize, क्योंकि हम सबको खुश नहीं कर सकते. It's a normal, it's a psychology that no matter how hard you work, people will always find one fault with you. And if a person is a fault finder, yeah, they cannot appreciate 99 brownie points. They can only appreciate wo ek mark kahan gaya. So you cannot please that one person that I want to get 100 on 100, so that I don't leave anything. So when you get 100 on 100, the same person might say, "Ha, you are getting 100 on 100 because you didn't do any work." So if you want to criticize, you will be still criticized. So people, now you must make sure that if the primary people whom you want to prioritize, are they on your side, it is easier. But if they are not on your side, you still want you have your aspirations and ambitions, then a slow, deliberate and repeated perusal or persuasion always works. An adamant or a stubborn or one time declaration always works negative, like I will not do any work till this is over, or I challenge who can make me work. I'll see how can I. So all declarations always make things worse. So it's always like, can I finish this by 8 o'clock? Can I finish this by 9 p.m.? And after that, I not do anything that comes later. So set negotiations if possible. Tell them I'm willing to do everything that is required, but I need to study from 9 to 1 in the morning and from 5 to 8 in the evening. So can you tell me what to do before 9? Whatever I can do before 9, give me whatever can be done. So set your timings and try to negotiate with the people who are a priority, that can you manage with other people in the family, that this slot is left and I'm not disturbed at this time. I'm willing to do anything later or before, because at workplace also people are going to give you work all the time, and they are going to expect results, but you will have to prioritize who is my boss, and whose work am I going to do first. So if you are unable to prioritize this at home level, where there are fewer bosses and fewer people, it is going to get difficult when there are 20 people whom you have to report to, and 20 people who are senior and from different departments, everybody seeking information ki ye abhi chahiye. So the nature of prioritizing helps you in prioritizing work later. There will always be people who want certain things done कि ये मुझे अभी चाहिए, आधे घंटे में मुझे information चाहिए. You need to understand that when 20 people say मुझे आधे घंटे में information चाहिए, whom do you report to? Who is responsible for assessing, evaluation, or your well-being? So this prioritizing at a family level will help further, because there always going to be lot of work than the time. So your time is always going to be less, and demands of your attention will always are going to be more. So this is just how it is going to be. So we cannot please everybody, we cannot be a people's pleaser. Hence, because we are not here for votes, we are here for efforts. So you need to focus on where will I react, because if we react, we are going to have a bad temper and it will trickle down the whole day. You cannot study anything else because your heartbeat goes up and you are unwell. You have never been so angry, so you tear up and you console yourself. So how whole day goes up. So instead of reacting and throwing away a whole day, decide to whom I will react and to whom I will ignore for some time till my work speaks for itself.
Right. The thing is, the end product of all of this, Dr. Geeta, is that a child then starts questioning, why am I doing this?
True.
If my family is not supporting, the civil services or any competitive exam is a collective pride. Whether the officer at the end of the day is happy or not, the family is beaming with pride that somebody we know is, in this
Correct,
place.
correct, correct.
And more often than not, it is the family who is more comfortable than the officer, because the officer
True,
really has to work very hard.
true,
So when the lady becomes the officer or is wanting to become an officer, then the question is, everybody wants to work to make their families comfortable.
true.
If the family is being like this, then again the existential question. Pratik, what is your take?
Sir, very interesting question. I think since I am not privy to such an instance, so I might not have a first-hand experience. But I heard Mrs. Indira Nui speak once about, when she got the Pepsi CEO.
Called up her mother, and she said that I'm
Yes,
yeah.
and her mother told her that first you get milk and then we'll talk about what promotion you got. And she's like, why do I have to do this? Because she's like, your husband is waiting for tea. And so if she's facing it, I'm sure many people would be facing it. And I think women by nature are stronger, sharper, and made of stronger grain. So they handle this much better. But it does not mean that we should put it on them to do household chores and then study also. I could only say one thing, that at times we must understand that it is not just important to be strong but also to feel strong. And if you feel strong, half the battle is won. You can take that mantle up and do things that Dr. Geeta was talking about. Also, more importantly, I think women now, there is a certain space where women have the leisure to do this. Those women at times do not become trailblazers that they could have been. I would like to urge those women and those in better positions to take up the mantle and make sure that people who don't have it can get an exit through your voice or your platform. So that is one thing. And when it comes to family, I think it's a tricky way to navigate. You question why you are doing this. I would like to say, having looked at my father working as an IS officer, you would question before the exam why you are doing it, and then when you are doing it, you would also question, why am I doing this? My family does not respect me enough, right? So that question always will be there. It's a very solitary journey,
Yes.
and that one has to be assured of. Even we feel at times as an aspirant, I used to feel that मुझे कोई समझ नहीं रहा है, my problems you don't get, my friends don't get it, my brother doesn't get it, people in my family don't get it, they won't. It is a dream that you have seen, and it is only you who can visualize what you're going to make out of it, right? So be okay with that solitude in this journey at times, and it's okay, it's fine to not being understood. It's fine to be in that space. So once you're okay with that, you'll start enjoying the presence you have with your own self, and you would like to do the work for its own sake, not because your family gets happiness out of it. Because that happiness might not be reciprocated with appreciation most of the time, because you are providing for them. That is your job apparently. So it doesn't get counted per se. So let's not fret about validation from family. Family is is already validated.
Yeah,
Let's not seek approval from them anymore.
It's actually very interesting. Dr. Geeta and Pratik both are very clear that you choose your people you want to listen to. You
exactly.
choose people you don't want to listen to, and at the end of the day, you must want to do things for the right reasons, right?
Correct.
So and that's the reason why. And I think the underlying cause of what both Dr. Geeta and Pratik are trying to say is that your pursuit for civil services has to fundamentally be understood.
Yes,
If it is for you to gain the glory that there is in the world for you and your loved ones, it's going to hit a dead end at some point,
that is true.
which is why the work that you do must really really excite you. And I'll give a personal anecdote here. uh, Somebody who, as somebody who teaches in competitive education now because of the pandemic, primarily also in the online scheme of things, it's a marketplace. Every day everybody has to do something or the other, and there is tremendous pressure. Now I could also take the road that a lot of my colleagues do, that do random videos here or there just because you want to put something out there.
Hmm.
I never finish my allocated hours on time, or ever, because if I don't have relevant content to teach, just because I have a quota of hours doesn't mean I would want to fill it. And that's the case. But there's something that I've noticed over a period of time. This is more sustainable because every class that you take, you are incredibly interested in.
Correct.
You enjoy teaching, and you enjoy teaching relevant stuff.
Mhm.
So the love and the affection and a little bit of people getting to know you, all of those things are byproducts, but
Absolutely.
all of those things emanate from the work you do.
That is true.
If I like simplifying something and making it easy for people to understand, that's the only pleasure I derive from teaching.
That's
The same way, when Pratik is a civil servant, his pleasure is in the work that he does. Your pleasure is in the way that you are helping somebody become a better version of yourself. So I
absolutely.
think all of us are in that zone, and we must value it that way.
Absolutely.
Which then, Dr. Geeta, makes us look at a relatively dark area of discussion,
Hmm.
because I think we've understood that whether it is fear or whether it's anxiety, you have to choose your battles and you have to choose your
Absolutely.
demons well.
True.
No
True.
doubt. And another implication of the pandemic, neutral to gender, is also abuse.
True. True.
Now,
True.
this abuse has two components: either the person is themselves getting abused, or is the person witnessing somebody abusing somebody in front of them.
Okay.
And it could be in any form. This could be physical, this could be sexual, this could be, as we were talking about, women candidates who are married being pressurized into a job, into having a child because it's the pandemic, people getting pressurized into something or the other, domestic violence, any form. So somebody hearing taunts from home is a line. When that line gets crossed and it transgresses into abuse, how does one deal with that sort of a helplessness?
Okay. So actually, what happens when one gets abused or one witnesses an abuse is one tends to feel that I must have done something to attract the negative attention, or if there is a domestic violence problem and the parents are fighting each other and discussing with whom the child would be, then they have witnessed such kind of difficult conversations and they feel that I am responsible, people are fighting because of me. So abuse always, we must start with, talking about abuse by saying that it is never your fault. The person who's been abused, you did not wear short clothes or you did not wear any, you did not do anything provocative, so that other people felt like touching you in a obscene way. So so we must separate abuse from shame and guilt, that people feel that I must have done something. Most people, survivors feel that maybe I must have been sitting too close to the person, or I must have given wrong ideas by the way I behaved or the way I dressed. So first of all, it was not your fault at all. It was the fault of the person who did the wrong deed. So even if you would have been in any other way, the person would still behave with somebody else that way. So you did not make a good person do a wrong thing. It was a wronged person who had faulty thinking and who had who had no respect for the life and dignity of others. So it was nothing of your doing. So please separate your thoughts and feel free to acknowledge that you are doing right things. You have been a good person and you did nothing to aggravate the situation or initiate the situation in the first place. So if you were not there in the situation, somebody else would have been there in the situation. So it is never your fault. It's not your fault. It is the fault of the person in whose thoughts all these negative actions were playing, and they just wanted to try it out on somebody, and it just happened to be you. It was not your fault. You did not initiate a wrong thought. So coming from that, you must now believe that the future is not going to be full of such people, because we see people around us, and if we grew up with wrong negative role models who have been domestically violent, or or we had parents who did not believe in us when we told them about the abuse of a close relative or a person who visited us often, and they said that I've been overthinking or over analyzing or putting labels where it was unintentional. It was a friendly gesture, but mistaken because of understanding of all these things. So if you have parents who have not been supportive, then you always feel unheard of and unsure of. So it brings down the confidence of the person to a new low, where a person whenever wants to do something originally, or wants to do a new work or take up a new task, will have lot of self doubt. So when people are not heard in the first place, they will have lot of self doubt whether uh, am I worthwhile, do my words matter. So when they feel that their words might not matter, or what they say people might not believe, they might make up lot of false stories to make their story so severe that other people definitely hear. So where there the tendency gets to, let me exaggerate my abuse so that I get the kind of attention that I want. Because when I told as it was just a bad touch, and I told, they did not believe. So now I have to increase the abuse level so that I get the attention of my parents or the relatives, or the caregivers. So that brings that puts a person into a wrong cycle. Always the person will exaggerate things, the positive things or the negative things in life. So whenever, in case if a person who's gone through abuse is in a relationship in an adult life, will always suspect that will see small amounts of anger as, now he's going to raise his hand, or now she's going to do this, throw the things in front of them, because they have seen a history. So they think that the present is going to become history. So they feel that any iota of anger could lead to a very violent level which they have seen. So they break off easily, or they are not into mature adult relationships where you trust and move forward, because there's a lot of low confidence in themselves. So the adult relationships also get affected because of lack of trust and confidence in oneself, because one is overplaying into the wrong habits of the person with whom they are dealing with because of their own past experiences.
Now, uh, Pratik, I would want you to add on to this, and then I'd want to sort of discuss the next theme of relationships, as because when we talk about abuse, we must also talk about relationships, and that's also where a lot of unsaid, unwritten form of abuse exists. So your comments and your insights on abuse, and then I'll ask you a very specific question on relationships, and then I'll come back to Dr. Geeta, because I think youngsters must have a view on relationships before we not so youngsters put in our two words on it.
You
Go ahead.
both are younger to me, so I consider both of you youngsters. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, sir, I would like to. So, having not been fortunately been in a position of being abused, but having been very close to people who have faced this in home environment and office environment as well. Uh, As a third party to the scenario, what you can do is something I would like to touch upon. The former has been touched upon by Dr. Geeta. First of all, don't belittle what the person has faced. So, if let's say one of the days, and I have been at fault, one of my friends once was in Rajendra Nagar, as a matter of fact, and she was catcalled by a moving car. And she approached me and said कि वो मेरे साथ आज ऐसा हुआ. And I, to diffuse the situation, I said, oh, you might be just looking very nice, right? And that was very wrong on my part to say that. I can't even imagine what she must have gone through. She was trying to tell me that I have faced this, and to help her out, I said something that I actually might have even enraged her more. And that is the day I realized that no form of abuse is small. You can't belittle them, first of all. Number two, if you have been a bully earlier, you have been the person perpetrating it, apologize to the person whenever possible at any point in your life. Even after 20 years, you feel that person needs an apology, please do that, because even after 20 years, that fixation is there in that person's head and you can actually help them get over it. Thirdly, don't repeat it if you have done it to somebody. Please be very, very cognizant of this. As to the abuser, if you know an abuser, for a matter of fact, confront them if you are in the capacity to, or approach relevant people who can do that. So that is what I would like to say on that topic. Moving forward into relationships and abuse and the whole scenario there, I think something I
Uh,
can.
let me sort of contextualize this
Sure, sure,
in the larger ecosystem, and then
sure.
sort of I'd like your view on it. So, competitive education is itself a very vulnerable space to be in, and because it's a very vulnerable space to be in, people look for anchors of strength, right? And the smallest anchor of strength is what people attach themselves to. In an ordinary circumstance, in an ordinary situation, they would have not considered this. But because everything else is so uncertain, because everything else is so gloomy and so difficult, uh, we often see in students preparing for competitive exams the propensity to unhealthily get attached in relationships. And when they don't work out, the impact that it has on candidates is mind shattering. It's earth shattering to begin with, which means this gets further aggravated in the pandemic because people are of course not in the proximity of each other, which also becomes a larger issue that a lot of times people who are involved with other people are sometimes not preparing for the exam. So they do not understand, as Prateek was telling us, nobody understands what an aspirant goes through, but the aspirant itself, right? So that of course is an issue. In addition to this, people start developing self-doubts. So my most fundamental question, I think, to begin with, Prateek, is how does the relationship conundrum play out in civil services, and then how would somebody look at it from all perspectives, and then of course Dr. Geeta can come in and tell us how to look at it from a more overall perspective. Prateek.
So I think you very rightly contextualize it, saying that it is the one anchor or the constant in an uncertain certain preparation like this that you hold on to, and if that starts dwindling, your whole concept of self is questioned. And I think it's very, very important to realize that any relationship, whether it be a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, spouse relationship, parent child relationship, it has its place in your life. It's not the whole and soul of it all, right? But it's a simple thing to say, a very hard thing to do. At the end of the day, it becomes important. Those anchors become important in life. I would say that find better anchors. People, and I want to be crude about this, people are uncertain and unpredictable. Have predictable anchors in your life. Let's say like habits like journaling, working out, things that stabilize you, hobbies like music, playing, these things are something constant that just have an output which is pleasurable to you or gives you happiness, but they don't take away things from you.
A pet.
So
A pet.
a pet, maybe, yes. I mean, that's a great example, and you can speak more about that possibly. Uh, so that is a one extreme view of it. I have questions where people spoke about breakup during preparation, uh, do not having time to talk, and thus the relationship going to waste. or breakup, on the verge of breakup, these kind of things. I think the first part, where you're not giving enough time to somebody or somebody very important, I think it has to be a very conscious and a very vocal discussion between the two of you, that look, I have this time, I can spare half an hour at some point of time in the day and talk to you, let us fix a time. Right, that is the best way to make sure, give the other person certainty about something. If they are not certain that you will clear the exam today, tomorrow, 3 years from now, they'll at least be certain you'll talk to them at the same time every day. So that is one certainty in that relationship, right? And there you put the anchor. Number two is, at times people say that somebody wants to help me in my preparation, my girlfriend or my boyfriend wants to help me, but the way they speak to me doesn't help me. They don't understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, and these are the questions we have gotten in our form. My advice is, the things you have told to me in this form, please tell that to the significant other. It might solve most of the things. Be that frank with those people. They will understand and they will mold their world according to what you need, because you might be in a more uncertain place in life.
True.
Thirdly, if you're going through a breakup during this preparation, for example, people like me who have been into the prep for 4 years, things might go up and down, right? You might lose people and you might get new people in your life. It's okay. You have to deal with this. People will always come and go. You might, so people, as we spoke about earlier, people are losing people in their lives physically. So this kind of loss also has to be taken in the same way. Uh, More importantly, something I tell every new aspirant who asks me about preparation style is, if you are in a relationship, before getting into preparation, be in that. And if you're not in one, don't get into one once you're into the preparation, because it might just change things the way they are going. So that can be one of the things you can take away. But I think that's all I have to say on this.
Right.
Dr. Geeta, please.
Yeah. So I would like to say is, just as the science students learn about the distillation process, what comes out at various stages of distillation. So there is a distillation, there is a rough distillation process of any relationship. What do you get at the least? The best you get out of a relationship may be a soulmate for life. That is the best diamond. That's the highest thing. And what is the least? What is the carbon derivative? What is the lowest? What is the lowest outcome that you can get from a distillation process of a relationship is experience. So what the lowest is experience, the highest is soulmate for life. So in between, somewhere we are moving around in the space between. So what has happened is, you must process the relationship. So whenever you're unsure, don't take the relationship to the next level. Don't overcommit yourself if you are not sure of yourself. What happens? People overcommit because the commitment is demanded, but do not totally want to be committed as much. But because the other person would feel bad if I do not show overt commitment, so you commit because commitment is expected of you. You do not commit because you want to commit. So the process of commitment is very important for youngsters. Please do not overcommit if you are not ready, because you will be very unsure of yourself and what you said and how you behave. If there is no uh, coherence, then it will definitely seem very artificial. So if you are through a breakup, try to exactly source and try to source the whole process as to what is the backstory, access the backstory of your current relationship which you broke up. Because if you do not access the backstory, you'll always be seeing similar kind of people, hurting yourself over and over again. If you access the backstory and analyze where seemingly perfect two people could not adjust because of some adaptability issues, differences, if you can process and access your backstory, you will be better at seeing friends in future. Otherwise you will be seeing similar people, always hurting yourself in similar manner. So in the distillation process, when you see that you've got experience in one relationship, now you must make sure that next what you're getting out of the process is not just experience, but some lifelong friend, or some friend for a friend for all weathers, or from soulmate. So sometimes people ex friends can be very good friends for 24/7. Many people are very comfortable with their exes because there is a friendship that did not go bad. There was a commitment that ceased to be, but there was a friendship and a mutual respect, and because nobody knows anybody else as much as you both know each other, so the friendship, if you can make sure that the friendship has not gone bad, that is a very good situation, because you know a friend who has been, or who was with you when you needed company. So you had some company instead of no company at all. So process the relationship for what it gave you, and also see where, and also do not look for only fault from the other side. Always also look for what you could have done better. As Prateek said, if you cannot give certainty about clearing the exam, you can at least give certainty about making a phone call at a certain time. So that's what I would like to say. Relationships are very fragile. Sometimes we become too dependent on somebody who is not compatible with us, because for us emotionally, or we are selfish on that level that we need to hold on to somebody to move on, to for our preparation. So sometimes we may pick up friends that are not suitable for our growth in all aspects.
Right. So, my I often get emails from a lot of students uh, asking my opinion on this. Uh, in my most humble opinion, Dr. Geeta and Pratik, I think when we are not truly contented, truly content with ourselves, when we're not truly happy and we don't feel ourselves as complete, we look for an additional entity to make us feel a sense of worth. Our worth about ourselves should come from ourselves. This could come
Absolutely
from the work that we do. This could come from the hobbies that you have. It could come from what you want from life. People help you to be a part of that process, but people shouldn't be the end goal. It should be a destination, and it's a
correct.
and people are essentially members of the journey on that destination.
True.
I believe that could be one way to look at how things are. But the heart knows what it knows, and the head and the heart will always constantly fight. Which brings me again to a rather sensitive part, Dr. Gita, which is in this entire process of anxiety, this confusion of whether am I upset or am I depressed, on fear, on self-doubt, and a lot of things. A very common outcome is the kind of addictions that sort of come up. And a lot of people don't understand that addictions are actually mental health issues.
Correct.
Addictions are not just physical in nature. For example, whether it is smoking or binge eating or
Correct.
stress eating, or
True.
a
True.
lot of students wrote to me and said that they were addicted to, say, social media, or say substance abuse, or pornography for that matter. Now, a moral debate on whether this is right or wrong is a different discussion. But the larger question is, how does one manage this kind of an addiction, or a use, or kind of an exposure? To what limit is it okay, and to what limit it should not be done, or some things just shouldn't be done? So how does one stop oneself from doing it? And I'll come to Pratik after you, Dr. Geeta, because I remember a 5-year-old conversation with Pratik. We were having a meal in Rajendra Nagar, and he said, so you should really try stoicism for certain habits. And I said, sure, sure, sure. And it's been 5 years, and all that I've done is read about stoicism. But I'm going to come to Pratik after Dr. Geeta. Dr. Geeta, please, please.
So, addictions is a very contemporary topic, and it's very relevant when it comes to competitive examinations and people who are preparing, especially because many people see various kinds of substance abuse as medicines. So, people actually relabel according to their convenience, so that the reality is not too much for them to handle. So, they will relabel as though it is like I'm only taking it for to keep myself to keep the alertness levels high, or because I need to study and function with less sleep, and I don't want to waste time eating, so I am consuming so that I can be stress free, or I'm smoking so that I can just release the stress in smoke. So, or most of the addiction happens because the users, or the people who are consuming, they tend to believe that we are just the drug users, we are not the drug addicts. So every addict thinks that he is user of the drug and not addict of the drug. मुझे drug को medicine की तरह काम के लिए use करना आता है. I'm the user of the drug, but I'm not the addict. Addict is the every user begins by saying I can function without it. When I'm with my family, they don't even know. When I'm with my friends, they don't even know. For me, it is a medicine. I want to do certain things, so it is a medicine for me. If you have a headache, you take some analgesic, so it is just something. I am a user. So most people tend to fool themselves initially that they are the users of the substance and not addicts of the substance, because they think that addict is somebody who cannot do without it, or who has to take it even in the presence of people who are subsequent members of the family, like immediate family or close friends. So that is not true. If you are taking it on a regular level and it is disturbing your time of sleep, the way you that the time your regular time of sleep is disturbed because of the pornography, excessive watching, or the drugs being taken. So it has you had to skip the lunch or the dinner because you're not feeling hungry, or because you've been oversleeping, or you have not been conscious. So if your meals and if your sleeping timings, two routines which categorize the day, a day of a person, is what time do you get up, what time do you sleep, and what time do you roughly have your breakfast, lunch, dinner, which can be a little here and there by half an hour to 1 hour max. So you can't have breakfast at 7 o'clock one day and 12 o'clock one day. So if you have a if you're someone who has breakfast at 9 and you are having it at 12, so it is not understandable. But someone who has breakfast at 10 maybe having it at 12, understandable. So what I'm trying to say is, if your routine of sleeping and eating is getting severely disturbed, and you have not been able to follow your routine for continuously a week, and you could not go back to your timetable after the end of 2 weeks, and you had to start from your preparation from where it was 6 months in your calendar, that means you have lost the plot why you have started studying and preparing. So if you are thinking that you are using a certain drugs or certain things because I want to feel motivated, I don't want to feel low, I'm missing my family, I'm missing the food, I just want to keep taking this as a medicine so that I don't remember, I don't become homesick, or the pressure of the competition, I don't want to get to the pressure of the competition, then you are fooling yourself. You must know every addict thinks he's a user before he becomes an addict. So no iota of it. So when you keep the limit to no, then you might contain it to a minimum level. But if you think that some amount is all right as a medicine, then you do not know what is the sum amount, because we cannot quantify.
Prateek,
Sir, I would just trace a bit back and say that love has also been shown to have cocaine like effects, and it's also considered an addiction by doctors.
completely agree with you on that front.
So, every addiction, I think as Dr. Gita very rightly said, that the first stage is to accept that you're an addict, right? That is where the journey to not being one starts. Uh, More importantly, binging used to be a concept with material goods earlier on. Now it has become social media, internet, content consumption, etc. And that is dangerous because we don't consider it as binging as same as something that hampers us physically or our body. Uh, the best way to deal with social media and too much of screen time, YouTube, porn addiction, all those things, is to have physicality to those things. Have physical indicators for yourself that this phone I'm using is something of a tool. For example, I'll just show you my phone screen. It's sorry.
Broken again.
This says that this is a tool,
Huh,
right?
huh.
So it's a very physical reminder to me that what I have to use this phone for. Uh, and you can have such things. So I have my screen, my computer screen says no YouTube, or there is a sticky note that no YouTube till 8 a.m., 8 p.m. or 9 p.m.
Okay.
So those physical reminders for internet or things which are not very tangible can actually help to reduce those kind of binging habits which we have. More importantly, as Dr. Geeta again pointed out, that how you live every day is how you will live your life. Your life is made every day. So you can't be like, आज मैं आराम कर लेता हूँ, या आज I did something at 12, then I did something at 10, and then I don't have a plan for the day. The way you live every day will be the way your life will be lived. So that is very important to remember. Uh, More importantly, we don't plan our days. So that is why addictions come in. They creep in when you have space for things to fill in. If you have a planned day, you will have lesser possibility to fall to addiction. uh, so if you don't plan for the day in the morning, your day will be going haywire. More importantly, if you don't plan in the night or you don't introspect in the night, अगर आप रात में हार के सो रहे हो, आप हारे हुए उठोगे सुबह. You will have lost the battle right in the night if you don't plan for the day ahead. So do plan your day. That will help most of it. Lastly, if you have addictions, do it in moderation. That is a practical thing to do. Moderation everywhere might help. If you can't get out of it, you think that smoking is something that you need during the UPSC preparation. I'm not saying that you continue smoking, but if you can't stop it, moderate it, right? So that is the best way to reach a median with yourself, and then gradually go towards zero. So that will be my view on it.
A lot of times students or anybody in a difficult space in life uh, looks to these avenues is because it also helps them escape into a different reality, as
Hmm.
as Dr. Geeta was also talking about. That there is, of course, it eases you out. Or in fact, there are several studies that say caffeine is also have very psychological in nature.
Hmm. Hmm.
Caffeine does
True.
not necessarily wake you up suddenly. In
Exactly.
fact, there are several, I may be wrong here, I might be jumping the gun, but drinking a cup of coffee as soon as you wake up has no effect on the body,
True.
because your body is naturally producing caffeine like chemicals which are allowing you to wake up.
True.
And a lot of it is psychological. So I think a lot of it is psychological.
Absolutely.
And which now sort of brings us to a more thematic end to our discussion. Dr. Geeta, how does one know when one needs to seek help?
Okay.
If one is not sure how to seek help,
Okay.
what is it that one can do? That's
Okay.
my final question to you.
Okay. So when one does repeated efforts and has taken many attempts, tried many ways to save oneself, but one is actually drawn towards hopelessness and is unable to have food, or if not the solid food, maybe unable to get a juice down or even unable to drink water. So the stress is so much that you are unable to basic water. So even if you're not able to have a glass of water, and you are unable to feel like you can now get up and open your book. All the books are right in the front of your table, just a 1 meter away, but somehow you feel like you're unable to open the book. So you have all the books possible, you have internet connection, you can connect with anybody, you have a phone full of battery, but you don't wish to touch your phone, touch your books, and you are unable to get a glass of water down. That means stress is now so much that is going to dehydration is one of the fastest ways that anxiety can come in. So actually it is connected. When you are anxious, you cannot eat or drink anything. When you cannot eat or drink anything, you become more anxious. So it is very important that in order to keep anxiety at bay, that we keep eating and drinking something, because the moment it's like the body is getting something in the stomach, the digestion process starts. So and the digestion process starts, the glucose is released, the feel good is released. So it helps to fight. So when somebody is not feeling like having basic water, and has pertinent and consistent thoughts of self harm, and is looking up for searching material online as to people who have recently tried self harm, or celebrities who have given up their lives, of business people who have given up their who have been suicidal. So if if somebody is reading about searching material, looking for causes, if their cause is big enough for self harm, so that I think this is like extreme situation. This is a situation where one cannot handle by oneself. You need to seek professional help, and that is the time that you should stop trying home remedies, and you should go and seek professional help.
Pratik, uh, as somebody who is has done the circle, is doing the circle, uh, if there was something that you truly believe in, right? There's one element of life, a philosophical idea that you believe in. What would that be, and how would you? What is it that you live by on a daily basis? What is it? What is that one thing that you live by on a daily basis?
Uh, I think we have spoken, and you spoke about this a few minutes back, that it is you who has to be content with yourself. There were many questions I would like to point out about anxiety, procrastination, motivation, how to do it, how to be better at procrastination, to not be better at it, but to get rid of it, etc. My answer to all of it is that if you want to do something like UPSC and you want to do it for yourself, why do I need to tell you how to motivate? Right? You yourself know that you want this. Like, there is no external force that can motivate you more than your own self. More importantly, treat yourself as an asset. Uh, you would be adding to the government of India or to the civil services if you enter it. Go in with that mindset that you can contribute, you can be an asset to the country, not uh, look at it or seeking it as a job or something you want, right? So that differentiation has to be there. There are things you want to do and there are things you need to do. I think career is something that you must be wanting to need to do and not just want to do. So UPSC must not be a want. There is a very clear difference between these two things. And something I live by is to fail, right? So I have seen multiple failures in this exam, coming very close to the touchline and then going back, doing the whole circle. Something my brother told me just last night is, forget about failing at the exam, think about failing at life. And when you can look at the superordinate goal, you can look at the bigger picture. Think about failing as an officer. You clear the exam, then
Mm.
you become what I called an Instagram influencer, right? These people do not stay in touch with ground realities, and they are after likes and followers, being a civil servant for that country, right? And you're not in touch with the people of that country. Fear that. Don't fear failing an exam. It's a very small failure.
True.
Failing at life must be something that you can be cognizant of, and that can give you enough motivation to curb any wrong thoughts for smaller things like an exam or a job, or one person in your life when you have many others to look forward to.
Certainly, and issues such as having a self doubt. You have to. There is no such thing called a self doubt. There shouldn't be such a thing called a self doubt, largely because everything is driven through effort. The one thing that we can always say is that civil services is not an intellectual exam. It's a labor driven exam, and we understand that sometimes people will have a sense of question that I'm not able to do it, or may I be able to do it or not. That's probably because there has been an effort, question mark, doing it the right way. A lot of students are living alone in Delhi. A lot of students are away from their families because the lockdown sort of made them stuck. They should, as ma'am said, reach out more, have as many communication as they can with people. Um, the whole what if question is always going to be pertinent. We've discussed uncertainty also as a part of today's discussion. Um, uh, a sense of burden that you're using your parents money. Again, it's a process. It's what you're trying to achieve. We spoke about that as well. Ma'am, on behalf of the entire community of students who are watching, uh, thank you so much for taking out the time. This has been
Pleasure.
incredibly insightful, and
Thank
it
you.
seems like we're going to be troubling you more often than not.
No, no, it's my pleasure, and I'm a proponent of music therapy. So I would like to conclude by saying that whenever you're stressed and not feeling very competent enough, just listen to few ragas. They are Ahir Bhairavi, Anand Bhairavi, Vrindavani Sarang, and P. Lud and Rag Darbari. Instrumental music, Indian classical instrumental music. The vibrations have been scientifically proved to affect brain wiring in such a way that the auditory suggestions are enough to release the positive secular, the positive glands, into the bloodstream. And immediately after 45 minutes of listening to any of the positive ragas, if the BP or the pulse has been checked before and after it has been seen, the results have shown that it has great calming effect, and it is a great relaxant. So once again, I would like all of you who are studying to have classical Indian music in the background with no lyrics. The instrumental music always helps to calm down because they are actually designed to uh, motivate. So the I would repeat: Ahir Bhairav, Anand Bhairav Rag, Vrindavani Sarang, Rag Pilu, and Rag Darbari. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pratik. This thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I'm
Mine.
I'm I'm going to I'm going to try a couple of these very soon.
Sure,
Pratik,
sure.
this could have not been done without you. Thank you so much for always being there. This was actually Pratik. Pratik was one of the was spearheading this idea. It
That's
wasn't it would have not been possible without him. Pratik, thank you always for thinking of everybody around you, and thank you
that
for
is
being
true.
you. Genuinely, thank you
He's
for being.
such a wonderfully brought up
Mhm.
boy, and it has been a pleasure. And ever since my husband did few programs for you, I've been always thinking that it's nice to be associated with someone who is doing such good work for youngsters and trying to make careers for them. It's a pleasure for me, and I prepared a lot of notes so that I can stand up to your expectations. So thank you so much
Thank
for
thank
trusting
you.
me.
Thank you so much.
Sir, I would just like to say a few things. One is that out of all the questions we got, almost 200 plus themes which were there in the questions, I was actually overwhelmed, and I called sir yesterday to say that this was heartwarming and heart wrenching at the same time
Uh,
to look at the questions. But let me assure all of you, including myself as an aspirant and as a civil service civil servant and a civil service aspirant at the same time, that most of us are facing very similar issues. Might be a good idea to look at the person very next to you and just speak to them about it if you feel comfortable. You both might have an answer to each other's queries. That is the easiest way to handle mental health. I am not an expert, but this helps. I do this with my
Absolutely.
brother often because he's staying with me. So, there are things that most of us are facing: anxiety, motivation, etc. etc. So, please try to talk to whomever you feel comfortable with. Even if it is Atish sir, I'm sure that most of us approach him for smallest of issues, including me. So approach the person you feel most comfortable with and try to get it out. Most of the time it helps. And I think this initiative was inspired by sir mostly and Dr. Geeta, but the kind of work they do. I'm constantly motivated to see what I can add to their pursuits and get from it. And the more I speak here, the more I have learned. So I think it has been almost a learning experience more than a pleasure to be a part of this. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you
And
so much. And